Good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to enumerate and discuss neoliberalism, myth, and vita active. Neoliberalism. Neoliberalism is contemporarily used to refer to market-oriented reform policies such as eliminating price control, deregulating capital markets, lowering trade barriers, and reducing, especially through privatization and austerity, state influence in the economy. It is commonly associated with economic policies introduced by Margaret Thatcher in the United Kingdom and Ronald Reagan in the United States. Some scholars note it has a number of distinct usages in different spheres. In ideology, it denotes a conception of freedom as an overarching social value associated with reducing state function to those of a minimal state. As a public policy, it involves the privatization of public economic sector or services, the deregulation of private corporations, sharp decrease of government budget deficit, a reduction of spending on public works. Particularly, neoliberalism is often characterized in terms of its belief in sustained economic growth as the means to achieve human progress, its confidence in free market as the most efficient allocation of resources, its emphasis on minimal state intervention in economic and social affairs, and its commitment to the freedom of trade and capital. Mythologists by Ronald Barthes. Mythologists by Ronald Barthes is a collection of essays taken from Les Lettres Nobles, examining the tendency of contemporary social value system to create a modern myths. Barthes also looks at the semiology of the process of myth creation, updating Ferdinand de Saussure's system of sign analysis by adding a second level where signs are elevated to the level of myth. Mythologists by Ronald Barthes split into Mythologists and Myth Today. The first section consisting of a collection of essays on selected modern myth and the second further on general analysis of the concept. The first section of Mythologists describe a selection of modern cultural phenomena chosen for their status as a modern myth and for the added meaning that has been conferred upon them. Each short chapter analyzes one such myth, ranging from Einstein brain to soap powder and detergent. Myth Today, in the second half of the book, Barthes addressed the question of what is a myth today, with the analysis of ideas such as myth as a type of speech and myth on the wings of politics. And Barthes justifies and explains his choices and analysis. He calls upon the concept of semiology developed by Ferdinand de Saussure, who described the connection between an object, the signifier, and its linguistic representation, such as a word, the signifier, and how the two are connected. Working with the structure, Barthes continues to show his idea of a myth as a further sign with its roots in language but to which something has been added. So with a word or other linguistic unit, the meaning, apprehended content, and the sound come together to make a sign. To make a myth, the sign itself is used as a signifier and a new meaning is added, which is the signified. According to Barthes, myth is based on human history and myth cannot naturally occur. There are always some communicative intention in myth, created by people. Myth can easily be changed or destroyed. Also, myth depends on the context where it exists. By changing the context, one can change the effect of the myth. At the same time, myth itself participates in the creation of an ideology. Vita Activa, or the Human Condition by Hannah Arendt. Hannah Arendt account of how human activities should be and have been understood throughout Western history. Arendt is interested in the vita activa or active life as contrasted with the vita contemplativa or contemplative life, and concerned that the debate over the relative status of the two has blinded us to important insight about the vita activa and the way in which it has changed since ancient times. She distinguished three sorts of activity: labor, work, and action, and discusses how they have been affected by changes in Western history. First is labor. Labor is human activity directed at meeting biological and perhaps other necessities for self-preservation and the reproduction of the species. In the ancient world, Arendt asserted labor was contemptible not because it was what slaves did, rather slaves were contemptible because they performed labor, a futile but necessarily activity in the modern world. Not just slaves but everyone has come to be defined by their labor. Second, work. Unlike labor, work clearly defines beginning and the end. Work involves an element of violation or violence in which the worker interrupts nature in order to obtain and shape raw materials. Work comprises the whole process from the original idea for the object to the obtaining of raw materials to the finished product. The process of work is determined by the categories of means and end. Arendt thinks that thinking of ourselves primarily as worker leads to a sort of instrumental reasoning in which it is natural to think of everything as a potential means to some further end. Kant's claim that humanity is an end in itself show just how much this instrumental conception of reason has dominated our thinking. Lastly, action. Action, which includes both speech and action, is the means by which humans disclose themselves to others. Not that action is always consciously guiding such disclosure. Action is the means by which we distinguish ourselves from others as unique and unchangeable being. With humans, unlike with other beings, there is not just a generic question of what we are, but of who each is individually. Action and speech are always between human and directed toward them, and it's generate human relationship.